So a child is born into this world, and their mind is blank, pure in consciousness, pure in heart. And as they start the journey with the two gifts, as stated in the Hermetica, speech and mind, with them they fashion their lives. I like to say fashion their lives as suggestions in relation to experiences that are identified with, form beliefs, and these beliefs act as garments for the mind. You wear a certain one and you have a certain experience. You switch in mind to another belief and you have another experience in which life changes from a subtle to a radical degree, all by belief change. For example, I mentioned in a recent video, the magic of your inner voice. I'll link in the description to it, that by applying this information, I reveal the ability to switch belief systems when I speak with myself. In one state, it feels like I'm speaking with my higher self, although it appears like someone else. In another, it feels like I'm talking to myself, all depending on what I am applying it to. Each are valuable. However, which one is true? Well, a response to that question would be through a belief or belief system currently identified with. So we see how much belief systems govern our perception. Beliefs are like magical tools, if you may, or garments you can wear as applicable to experience different realities. Anyone who knows me often hears the response to the question in which it is asked, what should I do in regards to a seeming challenge? My response is, a lot of times, the answer is it depends, or let's explore this further, shall we? To release certain bias-based belief identification in mind and allow the ideal answer to surface. Also, I'd like to add that all of this happens automatically while we're in flow. You know what to do, and you do it automatically. So I get into the flow, they reflect the flow, and they know what to do, and they do it automatically. We assume the responsibility inside as there is only one cause, I. As we discussed last week, I'll link in the description to it. So beliefs that have been subconsciously identified with orient us. And anytime you have a conversation with someone, watch a movie, read a book, beliefs are presented. You can place them in your mental wardrobe if you like, not necessarily for identification, but rather for wearing them as applicable depending on the application. This means not being bound by over-identification to beliefs, yet automatically cycling through them and calling them forth from the mental wardrobe by the subconscious mind to achieve the end, oriented from a vision you have already accepted as true. For example, I remember hearing a while back on my entrepreneurial journey that referrals were the best way to build a business. And someone else said partnerships, and another said social media. The truth is they all work. I built my IT business on referrals. And then when I went into consulting, most income came from the partnerships. And as my social media presence grew, that became the key source for business deals. One could even take a diversification approach. However, if I become dogmatic about one way or another, I would have forced myself to try and control my world rather than flowing effortlessly in the direction that felt natural, which produced the results. This is fluidity of mind. Your essence is formless as you are beyond beliefs. And we may have many beliefs in our wardrobe that we have accumulated on the way. We also have access to infinite intelligence, which through faith, all beliefs expressed into forms such as technology and the ways of doing things were once sourced. Thus, it's important to acknowledge that certain beliefs that were once helpful may no longer be helpful for us in relation to a current circumstance in life. In that moment of perhaps uncertainty or confusion, I recommend releasing all unnecessary identification in mind to allow the ideal perspective to surface and orient from. I like how Thomas Trord said it. He said, "The best guide is the knowledge that comes from personal experience, which gradually leads to the acquisition of a sort of inward sense of touch that enables us to distinguish the true from the false, and which appears to grow with a sincere desire for truth, and with the recognition of the Spirit as its source. The only general principles the writer can deduce from his own experience are that when, in spite of all appearances pointing in the direction of a certain line of conduct, there is still a persistent feeling that it should not be followed. In the majority of instances, it would be found that the argument of the objective mind, however correct on the facts objectively known, was deficient from ignorance of facts which could not be objectively known at the time, but which were known to the intuitive faculty. And so thus the intuitive faculty accesses the infinite world within, as well as all past experiences and beliefs, to reveal the ideal insight to orient from. So we want to return to being childlike again with a fluid mind, so that in moments if one finds themselves overthinking or uncertain, they allow the insight to surface, and from there they'll automatically move forward ideally, without unnecessary suffering. So again, we form beliefs about experiences from what we teach ourselves, and also how we relate to what and how we are taught by others. At a certain point, when we come across this information here, we realize that beliefs are actually tools to create the life experiences that we want. We may have access to them within, but we don't have to always identify with them. Now, from the storehouse within, they can be called upon by conscious suggestion to operate automatically from as applicable. Thus, having actually many beliefs, belief systems, and identities within oneself, one can instantly assume any role at any moment based on the application, automatically oriented from the subconscious vision they had once accepted as true. For example, when I'm in a conversation with someone or consuming information in any shape or form, I allow my mind to be open to what is being presented. I then relate over to personal experience. I then see if there's anything that I could try out, and from there, I know what to integrate. If I integrate it and it works out for me, I'll place it in my mental toolbox, and I'll acknowledge the value of the speaker's reference experience and integrate whatever is applicable, for everyone actually is our teacher. If you take this approach, you'll learn faster. As many of you know, I taught accelerated learning for many years in workshops, and this was one of the aspects of accelerated learning. The same is to be said about beliefs. I listen to what a person shares, which are beliefs. If I hear something interesting, I'll place it in my mental subconscious wardrobe, knowing that at a certain point it would be worn to operate from that perspective as applicable. Now, this is extremely powerful as it allows us to release from certain dogmatic, absolutist identification to beliefs and allow our mind to be fluid. If one allows themselves to learn from many, they will see that there are many different belief systems out there, and all of them are valuable to learn from. They then, having perhaps been exposed to so many seeming contradictory beliefs, reconcile within, as this is what the mind is also designed to do, reconcile. Thus, from there, they shall enjoy a fluidity of mind-based approach towards life, applying whatever applicable mental tool to bring forth their vision automatically. So the way we do this is by examining and questioning our beliefs often. No matter how much we might have been convinced that things work a certain way, in another context or scenario, they might not. And if one remains overly identified with a certain belief that once served them but no longer does, it may create unnecessary force, suffering, and emotional turmoil in their lives as they eventually release from it, thus really prolonging it unnecessarily. And so we know that subconscious beliefs about ourselves and our world reveal as the experiences in our lives. So we want to invest the time to uncover them, which we've already discussed extensively and also in my subconscious mind program, which I'll link in the description. Number 2, we want to acknowledge meta beliefs, beliefs about beliefs. So a meta belief that you'll find to be very helpful to be able to release unnecessary identification to certain beliefs in mind is the one that I incorporated, which is beliefs are like garments, and I can change them whenever I'd like and experience life differently according to what I choose. Also, I self-suggested that I can release all unnecessary identification instantly in the moment if reactivity is about to occur, to automatically call forth the ideal subconscious beliefs from the mental wardrobe to wear, oriented from the vision and bringing forth my vision in an effortless way. This is very powerful. So I'd recommend including it as your core beliefs. It allows you to be aware of when you are about to react to a certain belief in mind in relation to an experience that is not ideal and release instantly from it to reveal the ideal perspective to orient from, and everything happens automatically and ideally from there. So if you accept these suggestions into the subconscious, it changes your perception of beliefs. And you'll notice that you can switch belief systems and states instantly to choose what is lovely, in harmony with your vision, and in harmonious relationship with all to reflect as an ideal life. Here's an example of how it plays out for me and others who I've taught this to. Let's say I'm having an interaction with someone, and they say something in which I notice based on what they said, or more accurately put, how I subconsciously relate to what they said. I'm about to become reactive to a past now considered limiting belief. I now would be aware that I would about to become identified with a belief in mind that is causing me to polarize to what they said in a way that I would not consider ideal. At that moment, I can observe without reacting, and the experience changes ideally as I am now oriented from the subconscious vision I once consciously accepted as true, beyond the reactive beliefs. I also may suggest to myself, I'm in the flow now, if the reactivity seems to persist, and then the conversation changes as the energy is transmuted, as the interaction goes ideally. Or one may excuse themselves, or someone else shows up and the conversation goes in a different ideal direction. All of those are effects of the instant change that occurred within. This is the power of what I'm speaking of. Everything changes based on what we identify with in mind, and since we have already accepted our vision as a subconscious fact in mind, we release all unnecessary identification and orient automatically to the vision, and all the supportive beliefs show up automatically, which facilitate what we say, do, etc. And I know you did this before, although you may not have been aware how, so I'd like to further encourage it in this conversation, as it is tremendously helpful in relationships, so you can enjoy the life you want and not be at the whim of past beliefs. Remember, they are only garments to be applied as applicable and placed back in the wardrobe for perhaps future use or not. Some might not be in the wardrobe anymore. So if you ever watched the movie Limitless, the scene where the woman was at the park and she didn't know how to get out of that situation she was in where that man was chasing her. So she took this Limitless pill, and then she saw the sequence of what to do. That's what I'm talking about. Only here we're doing it completely natural. You already have this ability, working with the inherent power of your subconscious mind. So again, key insights. Number 1, beliefs are like clothes. You can change them whenever you like, and shall automatically cycle as applicable depending on the circumstance. With this fluidity of mind, in which you have incorporated the meta-belief that I had suggested earlier, you find yourself with a heightened degree of awareness, aware if you were about to identify with a certain belief in mind, and you're able to observe and release identification with that belief as you notice that everything changes automatically oriented automatically from your ideal subconscious vision accepted as true. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You can say all reference experiences are called upon at any moment while stimulating infinite intelligence to reveal the ideal direction oriented by my vision accepted as fact. From this acceptance, everything rearranges automatically to reflect my vision in a blissful, flow-based way. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.